One of the things that this whole process of making content has taught me is it's taught me so much about alignment, my actual alignment, and what that means in terms of the bigger picture of spirituality, awakening, and just how all of this stuff melts together. So, my name is John, I'm the Haizhen Resonance, and today I'm starting off the final 10 videos of this series, My Truth, or as much of my truth as I can. A lot of the work that I've been trying to articulate over this last couple of months, and even if I look back into the last couple of years, has really been trying to fit myself into the frameworks of other people. So when I'm talking about creating Haizhen and talking about the Haizhen transformation, how it utilizes human design to help you find your alignment, to then use hypnosis and other techniques and tools for deconditioning, and then to use all of that information that you would gain from there to then be able to step out as your truest self. I think all of those things are really solid. And at the same time, I find that a lot of the work that I've put into that in some ways kind of goes into a black hole. And it's not to say that it won't pay off or it won't come back to be useful in the future. In fact, I think that all of that work was absolutely necessary to get me to this very point here. Along the way in this journey of trying to figure out how to build a business, how to build content and creation and followers, I've kind of tried a lot of different things. And in the last month or so, just really stepped out of my comfort zone to make content that I previously was a little bit apprehensive about making. Like I wasn't sure if I could share my particular viewpoint. And I think that that comes from a lot of different things in my past. And I guess a lot of people might have similar experiences who would have grown up or lived through similar experiences to me. Part of that is kind of starting in this world where I, at a very young age, realized that maybe the world isn't as it seems, which is to say that I realized that one day it was all going to end, in the sense of this human existence, this timeline is going to expire, I guess, for lack of a better term. And from that point on, I kind of was like straddling two different worlds. One of knowing that there was definitely more underneath the surface. It's almost like that idea of death and end of life is a topic that doesn't come up very often or very comfortably. And having that experience, I think, put me in this world of like, during the day, going through like the usual things that we have to do in society as a child or even as a young adult, of like going to school and, you know, doing things that were kind of like approved in the usual pathway of things. Go to school, get a job, get married, and then, you know, I don't know that anywhere in there is the idea of live your life. And then in my own personal experience, then it's almost like feeling like the need to steal away time to do things that I was interested in. Like when I was young, the first thing that I'm thinking about is I loved action figures. I love just sitting there and like playing like imagination and make believe and just like having these epic battles. The other thing that I thought about a lot was death and like what's going to happen to me. And I came to some answers, but I'm not going to go into those things today. Or even just like looking for other things where like looking for magic in the world, basically, is what I would say. There was an element of like, you know, really loving the paranormal and like thinking about ghosts and monsters and all of those things that are unknown. And the unknown was always fascinating to me. As I continued to kind of grow and just try to sort myself out in this world, it was like I went down the usual path of getting a job, going to school, getting a job, starting a family, and all of those things were such valuable experiences. I learned so much. And I also learned that as I was going through that, I just really didn't know what was going on, and I was just doing my best. In the last while, I've had conversations, especially in the last year, with a number of different people who've had spiritual experiences and awakenings. And I've had this, I guess for me, the awakening process has always been a long, drawn out, and slow one, to the point of like every day I'm awakening to something new. I think that those drastic, very marked awakening experiences often happen when there's a big shift from seeing things one way to the next moment seeing things a completely different way. And for me, that was never really the case of like that drastic shift. It was just always little bits, little bits. And I felt like I was just pulling at the veil to just try and see a little bit beyond there. So all of this has kind of led me into this position of just believing and understanding, knowing that there's something else out there. There's something bigger. And for us, for me in this existence, there will always be something more to learn, to experience. Through all of these different things that I've learned, the other thing that I've found out is that over time, we all tend to move towards what our purpose is in this life. Whether it's our moving towards our purpose, or the other way of thinking about it is living more in line with your design. With your human design, it tells you who you're meant to be in this incarnation. And most people don't have that information from the moment that they're born. Understanding that information now, I can see the pattern for myself, like, oh, these are things that I kind of did and it made sense. Or there were things that I didn't understand how to make sense of, which is to say the way that my energy is best received is through invitations. So for example, if you've clicked on this video, you've watched this far, you've invited me into your space to have this conversation. Other people that I've spoken with, especially around the ages of 40, between 40 and 50, when I read their charts, it's not only brings self-awareness to them, where they say, oh yeah, like this thing manifests for me, and this thing I see in my life, and that thing, like I see all of these defined energies and the way that I'm meant to be. Like I can see it play out in all of these different ways. You know, even like at first when I learned about inner authority and the idea of like a sacral gut response, a gut instinct for a yes, I was even tentative to share that with people, because in my mind, I was like, is this something that people would understand? And I think part of that comes back to that idea of like all the time that I spent trying to live in a logical and rational world where, like, you know, seeing is believing, observation is what defines reality, like that type of thing. But observation in the sense that it has been measured by some like objective third party. But then of course, if you spend any time or have any interest in things like quantum physics, you'll understand these ideas of like science is saying that the observer affects the system, which is a funny kind of recursive idea, because if the observer affects the system always, then all of the observation of all of the things that we've observed up until this point has been affected by the people that observe them. And point in fact, if you even look at science, there's interpretation there. You have numbers, you have like averages and data. And that idea of correlation not being causation becomes so important, because just because two things happen concurrently doesn't mean they're linked, but our brains are wired to work that way because we like story, we like narrative, and that's how we understand the world. The other way of looking at it is saying that whatever you observe and whatever you link becomes your reality. So then if you're listening to all of this and you're like, there's no way that any of this is real, there's no God, there's no larger force, all there is me, then that is literally your reality, and that will be your truth. If it exists, it exists. If somebody thinks that way, then it exists in their mind, because this is their observation of it. They've made those connections, and that's what they've seen, or that's what they see in the moment. And that's the reality that they're observing. So disagreements happen because oftentimes people are using words that mean different things to different people, and the argument is oftentimes not about what is actually underlying the conversation, which generally it's the same types of things. We generally all want to be safe for ourselves. We want to be taken care of. We want to be able to provide for the people that we love and take care of the people that we love. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid all of these other things. And there's a lot of avoidance in the way that we frame our thoughts and our stories in this world. It comes back and ties into this idea of combative metaphors, where there's always this idea of separation, us versus them, winning versus losing. If you're stuck in that mode, then that's what you'll see. The other way of looking at it is We're all here living in this existence. We all exist. You exist out there, even though I don't know who you are. I don't know who's listening. Your existence is yours. I won't have any direct experience of it. Even if you come and tell me, I won't have direct experience of your experience. So how does this all tie to the work that I do? Well, I believe in that idea of that we are spirit having a human existence. So then if we are here having this existence, then that means that as spirit, we've come into this experience as a choice. So whatever is happening, we've at some point made that choice, and we've forgotten the way that we're supposed to operate. We've forgotten the choice that we made to come into this existence. So then if we've forgotten that, we're kind of just figuring it out. And through that figuring out process is where we learn our deepest truths. Whatever that you're learning through going through your life right now, living as you, is what you're meant to experience. If you're coming across me and this is resonating with you, then this is exactly the right time for all of that to happen. Ultimately, my theory is that as you move into alignment, you'll expand your awareness of your true nature. The more that you can do that, the more space you'll create to experience more and more of the things that you've come here to experience. So that's where human design comes in. That's where the hypnosis for deconditioning comes in. That's where being able to present yourself in the ways that best represent you comes in. And that's the ultimate final intention of the Haizhen transformation. It's as simple as one simple formula, which is follow your strategy and authority. Check if it's making you feel your signature theme, which is the way that you are operating when you're in flow, or you're feeling your not self theme, which is when you're not operating as yourself, you're operating from some place that's not you. And if you're feeling not you, check your strategy and authority and make an adjustment. If you are feeling you, check your strategy and authority and be grateful that you followed it and that you understand that now. So that's kind of where I've been in terms of like, I'm just here to make my content. I want to just put out messages because like thinking about like all that nuance of like, oh, here's a hook and what will connect is exhausting. And it's not for me. So over the next couple of reflections, what I plan to do is just deliver some more truths the way that I see them and share that as much as possible. I'll talk about some themes and things that are interesting to me, and we'll kind of go from there. I want to continue off and finish this last kind of set of 10 and then take a break. I'm going to pause and I will want to work on some content where I can deliver you exactly those steps and the things that you might need to kind of reshape your thinking and reshape your world. Follow me on TikTok if you're interested. I'm posting regularly on there about like various topics, and it'd be nice to have you there. Feel free to ask me questions. I do my best to interact and respond to any comments that I get. And if we're vibing, if you like the things that I'm sharing, then send me a message. Always interested in meeting some new people because there's a lot of wonderful people out there, you included. So I'll see you next time. This is number 81 of the Haizhen log, and it has been nice to spend this time with you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And as always, thank you